WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. At least 23 civilians killed in an attack by unidentified men in Mali. Drama unfolds in Ghana's parliament as Speaker orders an MP to be removed from the House for making contentious statements.
This is a completely rude remark, and I can send you out of the House now. You represent the good people of Senegal. I represent the whole country. Please, Marshal, take him out of the House.
Unions of the general tax workers in Côte d'Ivoire begin 72-hour strike to demand full payment of their health insurance contributions.
Today in the offices, agents are cramped into small spaces. How do you expect us to work under these conditions and give our best to the state?
And Liberia's Commerce Minister says they will continue to rely on other countries until citizens invest in agriculture. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners across the sub-region. Well, let's begin this bulletin in Mali as the security situation in the Badangara region is getting increasingly worrisome. This is because more than 20 people, all farmers, were killed over the weekend by unidentified armed men in the village of Dembo in the Bankar circle. Fear has set in, forcing residents to flee the locality and the center of the country. They are now demanding more security from the army in the area, which is now plagued by attacks by armed men. Here is Augustine Coley with the report.
According to local sources, armed men on motorcycles attacked the village of Dembo about 10 kilometers from Bankas. They then headed towards a crop field where they opened fire on farmers. In all, 26 people, all civilians, were killed in the attack. And since then, the locality continues to be empty of its population who, out of fear of also being attacked, have fled. This resident, who we were able to contact, explains, people are worried. When they stay in their villages, they don't know what's going to happen in the future. You could say that people are disappointed with the Malian armed forces because they are supposed to be protecting us. If they're done, who's going to save us? The same source also explained that the army intervened after the departure of the attackers. He further calls for more security from the Malian armed forces. What we are asking the authorities to do is to accept their responsibility. All Malians have the right to security and protection. It's really disappointing that so many lives have been lost. We are asking them to at least ensure the safety of people and their property. The Banjagara region in the center of the country continues to suffer from terrorist attacks. At the start of the month, 23 people were killed in the community of Dukombo.
Augustine Coley filed that report as sent in by a correspondent in Bamako, Aliu Cham. Still in Mali, the chairman of the commission responsible for drawing up the preliminary draft of the Charter for Peace and Reconciliation met with the country's key players on Monday. The aim of these discussions is to gather the proposals made by the various stakeholders in order to move towards lasting peace. Here is what Osman Yusufu Mega had to say.
La commission de rédaction, conformément à l'article 8 de son...
In accordance with Article 8 of its founding decree, the drafting committee has initiated a series of meetings with the living forces and is planning individual or group interviews with key figures and resource persons. This meeting is the first in this series because we first needed your option and your blessings to ensure that the initiative of the President of the Transition, Head of State, is crowned with success for the happiness of Mali and Malians. I have been able to appreciate the true value of your high-quality participation and your important contribution to the work of the dialogue. I therefore remain convinced that at the end of this meeting, the drafting committee will benefit from the same solicitude.
Osman Yusufu Mega is the chairman of the commission responsible for drawing up the preliminary draft of the Charter for Peace and Reconciliation in Mali. Well, to Ghana now, where the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagby, was at his wit's end on Monday when he ordered the Member of Parliament for Sevui Waso Kwaku Afriye to be walked out of the House. The Speaker ordered for the MP to be removed from Parliament after he made contemptuous remarks on the floor of the House. Our Accra correspondent, Nadi Tete, has more details in this report.
It was real drama in Parliament after Speaker Alban Bagby made the order to the marshals to remove Dr. Kwekwe Friye from the House. But this was only after the Sechirioso MP first made some comments that infuriated the Speaker of Parliament, speaking on the floor of the House following the nomination of 2 justices to the Supreme Court by President Akufo-Addo. Alban Bagby urged the House to look into the issues of the full complement of the Supreme Court when the appointment committee presents its report on the nominees to the plenary for consideration. But while he was still speaking, he felt the need to allow the Sechirioso MP make an interjection, and that was when everything took a quick nosedive.
If you want, I'll grant you the opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to your chair, these preliminary remarks you are making are prejudicial, and I believe that as representing the good people of Sechirioso, it doesn't lie in your mouth to remind us of the things that you said. Thank you.
This is a completely rude remark, and I can send you out of the House now. It lies in my authority to do so. You represent the good people of Sechirioso. I represent the whole country. Please, my child, take him out of the House.
Following this, the MP said in a radio interview that he did not feel he had done anything wrong. He insisted that the comments he made on the floor of the House were not disrespectful, as the Speaker of Parliament claimed they were. Dr. Kwekwe Friye joins a list of MPs who have found themselves in similar situations. In 2012, the MP for Adentan, Kojo Iduasare, had to flee the House over his improper dressing after the Speaker's attention was drawn to him. In 2021, then Agric Minister Dr. Efriye Akoto had to leave Parliament over similar complaints of improper dressing, while Al-Hassan Suhini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, was asked to leave the House by the Speaker over debates on the attacks at the Yawaso West Wuogon constituency in 2019. For WEDR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
Still in Ghana, ahead of the reading of the 2024 Media Budget Review, some members of Parliament have been sharing their expectations. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, will fulfill his constitutional mandate when he addresses the House of Parliament later today. The review typically provides an update on the country's economic performance, fiscal policies, and adjustments to the main budget for the remainder of the year. This presentation is also crucial as the country heads to the polls on December 7, 2024, with the government expected to spend within its budget. Here are some MPs sharing their expectations ahead of the reading.
What we expect is for the finance minister to come and tell us how the IMF program has sustained our economy and how we're going to continue to ensure that how we've managed our economy is sustained. I think that is what we should expect from the finance ministry. I'll be quite surprised if they come to request for any new funding or introduce any new taxes.
For me, we're not going to hear anything new. The Minister of Finance said they had made some gains in terms of the performance of the economy. That for me is artificial, because if you want to test the performance of an economy, my approach is that go to the markets.
Some MPs in Ghana's parliament speaking there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In neighboring Côte d'Ivoire, the unions of the DGI and the General Tax Directorate have announced a 72-hour strike starting on Wednesday. They are demanding from the Ivorian state the full repayment of the sum of more than 37 billion CFA francs as contributions collected for their mutual health insurance. A few weeks ago, the group sent a strike notice to its supervisory ministry. Ogubierika has more details.
Among the demands of agents of the DGI, the Tax Directorate of Côte d'Ivoire, are the full repayment of contributions collected for their mutual health insurance. They are also demanding improvement in their working conditions. Ivan Bohoe is the Secretary General of UNAGI CI, the National Union of Tax Agents of Côte d'Ivoire.
There are habits that operate based on obligation, and when we notice it is prevalent, we lose a sense of urgency. This results in agents losing the ability to take care of themselves, leading to their inability to serve the state effectively as economic soldiers.
The establishment of a career profile for DGI agents and the improvement of their working conditions are also points of demand, according to the president of FESI DGI, Federation of Unions of the General Tax Directorate, Nasise Saraya.
We have reduced the number of agents from 20,000 to 7,000. Today in the offices, agents are cramped into small spaces. The resources are no longer sufficient. How do you expect us to work under these conditions and give our best to the state?
The various tax unions denounced the silence of the Ivorian authorities after they were said to have made several complaints without success. On June 25, they filed a strike notice.
Agabirika voiced a report filed in by our Abidjan correspondent Abin Ade. Still on industrial actions, with the nationwide strike declared by lawyers in Guinea, questions have been asked if this will impact the verdict in the trial of the September 28, 2009 massacre scheduled for July 31, 2024. These questions were being asked by the victims and the organizations which have become civil parties in the case. They urged the transitional authorities to quickly find a compromise with the Guinean bar so that the day of their long-awaited justice is not postponed. Achatis will bring us more details.
Since last week, Guinean courts and tribunals have been at a standstill because of the strike declared by the Guinean bar, a strike which will continue until July 31, which is also the date on which the Dixon Criminal Court plans to deliver its verdict in the case of the massacre of September 28, 2009. According to Guinean jurist Montesquieu Diakite, the mood swing among lawyers risks impacting this long-awaited day. For the Guinean Human Rights Organization, the civil party in the case, the Guinean authorities should do everything to find common ground with the Guinean bar so that the victims and the accused know their fates. According to sources at the Guinean Prime Minister's office, the head of government plans to meet representatives of the Guinean bar this week where the demands of the lawyers will be discussed.
That was a report from our Conakry correspondent Chernoff Ibrahim Abad and voiced by Eche Atisu. Well, starting this Tuesday, the Nigerian authorities have decided to reduce the prices of hydrocarbons at the pump, particularly super and diesel. The decision was made through a decree published on Monday by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Through this decree, the price of a litre of Super 91, which is petrol, goes from 540 CFA francs to 499 CFA francs, and a litre of diesel goes from 668 CFA francs to 618 CFA francs. David Vincent completes the story.
Michael Zodi, president of the Patriotic Front for Sovereignty, one of the main organizations of Nigerian civil society, in a statement said this is a decision that is highly anticipated by the population, noting that it will have an impact on the cost of living through a reduction in the price of transport and goods. Also, Gamatie Mahamadou Yamsambu, Secretary General of the Union of Transport and Related Workers of Niger, welcomed the reduction, noting that it is a positive measure for the transport sector, but doubts its impact on the transport price. According to the union, they expected a bigger reduction than the one announced by the government. Recall on July 17, the Nigerian government announced its intention to lower the price of hydrocarbons, following strong demands expressed by ordinary citizens as well as trade union structures and civil society. Niger began exploiting its oil in 2011 with a daily production of 20,000 barrels. Since last April, this production has increased to 110,000 barrels, of which 90,000 barrels are intended for export.
David Vincent reporting there. Meanwhile, it's almost a year since the military took power after overthrowing the government of Mohamed Bazoum in Niger. People are already starting to take stock, and the streets of Niamey opinions differ. While some appreciate the actions taken by General Abdurrahman Chani, others remain unsatisfied with the security situation in the country. According to the Secretary General of the African Convention for a Fair Society, Abdullahi Mawuni, the military authorities must address the bad practices that existed under Mohamed Bazoum. In the analysis of Bunti Jallo, an analyst on security issues, the authorities have failed to address the deteriorating security situation, which was one of the reasons given by the military to justify their takeover. General Abdurrahman Chani, the head of the Presidential Guard under Bazoum, proclaimed himself the country's new leader on Friday, July 28, 2023. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. At least 23 civilians killed in an attack by unidentified men in Mali. Drama unfolds in Ghana's parliament as Speaker orders an MP to be removed from the House for making contemptuous statements. Unions of the General Tax Workers in Côte d'Ivoire begin 72-hour strike to demand full payment of their health insurance contributions. And still ahead in the news, Liberia's Commerce Minister says they will continue to rely on other countries until citizens invest in agriculture. We do have the press review segment, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, you can listen to us live on wadr.org, and we are also streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. Liberia's Commerce Minister Amin Modad says the country will continue to rely on other countries to feed its citizens unless all Liberians are willing to invest in the soil and proudly eat what they grow. Like many African countries, Liberia has long struggled with food insecurity and relied heavily on external assistance to meet its food needs, as you will hear in this report by our Monrovia correspondent Darlington Popper.
So far, statistics shows that the country's reliance on rice imports has been a long-standing challenge, as evidenced by the 70% importation of a staple food, rice. In order to change this narrative, Commerce Minister Amin Modad says local farmers should be empowered to cultivate agricultural produce and ensure local production is prioritized.
It's about food security. We need to think beyond just rice. We need to develop a strategy, a very, very comprehensive strategy, a realistic strategy on food security. And that involves empowering Liberians to be part of the importation of rice, which we are doing, making sure that gradually we increase the local production of rice. Because as it is, you have 6 importers and 5 of them are foreign owned. We have to make sure that we boost local production. Not only of rice, we have to boost local production of cassava, flour, other food items.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Minister Alexander Nuta says his government is now investing in local farmers for the cultivation of over 50,000 hectares of land to grow rice and other produce. He said more investment is currently underway to commence the process of making Liberia food sufficient.
We should grow more rice so that we will start importing the ones that we're eating here. Because the more importation a country indulges in, the more foreign exchange you are spending out there. And the more foreign exchange you spend, the poorer your people will become, because what's supposed to be used to improve their life than what we're spending on our food.
On the outside.
So we need to grow more food for ourselves. So the president has said we should be able to develop 50,000 hectares of the lowland to grow our rice. We also want to do more cassava production.
Local farmers have echoed the need for the distribution of modern equipment to enable them to expand their harvests and ensure the market is established to procure their harvests. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
58 of the 164 member states of the World Trade Organization WTO members have voiced support for a proposal from the African group backing incumbent Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala to serve a second term. The 58 member countries of the Trade Association made this known at the July 22 meeting of the WTO General Council, according to a statement by the World Trade Body. Well, Rosa Mara-Kate has more details.
According to the statement, the African group requests that the current Director General makes herself available to serve a second term, and has proposed that the process of appointing the Director General should be started as soon as possible. It added that most of the members praised the DG's hard work and her achievements during her first term. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, 70, said she was very grateful for the support of members. The Director General said that she took the call of members very seriously and was favorably inclined. She said she would get back to members very soon regarding her intentions. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the 7th WTO's boss, took office in March 1st, 2021 for a single term of 4 years, which will expire on August 31st, 2025. She is eligible for a second term. The former Nigerian finance minister navigated stiff position to become the first woman and the first African to serve as WTO's Director General. Before her current appointment, she twice served as Nigeria's finance minister from 2003 to 2006 and from 2011 to 2015. She also briefly acted as foreign minister in 2006, the first woman to hold both positions. The skilled navigator had a 25 years career at the World Bank as a development economics, rising to the number 2 position of the managing director operations.
Rosamara Kate reporting there.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we head back to Monrovia as we join Darlington Popper for the newspaper review.
For today's edition of Press Review, we have the New Dawn newspaper, the Daily Observer newspaper, and the Oracle newspaper. We begin the review process with the New Dawn newspaper. Judiciary and executive infraction over appropriation as Chief Justice warns constitutional crisis. We see the photographs of President Joseph Yoma Boakai and Chief Justice Ho'on Sianayo on the front page of the New Dawn newspaper. On the back page of the New Dawn newspaper, Boakai pressured to release LDA report. The rest of the materials on the back page of the New Dawn newspaper are all advertisements. From the New Dawn newspaper, next is the Daily Observer newspaper. Justice Minister urges unity in fight against financial crimes. Revolutionizing financial assets. Orange Money Liberia's bold move for inclusion and affordability. Firestone, a tale of two realities. Brewing crisis, Liberia's judiciary lashes out a budget cut. On the back page of the Daily Observer newspaper, Mary Cameron crowned Miss Liberia 2024. The rest of the materials on the back page of the Daily Observer newspaper are all season greetings. From the Daily Observer newspaper, the Oracle newspaper is now our final stop. Boakai connects with world's richest man to revolutionize internet access. On the back page of the Oracle newspaper, Massacre briefs UN about progress on war crimes court. Push for new capital city. Beer Mountain supports host communities ahead of Independence Day. On that note, that is how I would love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. But before we go, these are the newspapers we actually followed on today's edition. We followed the New Dawn newspaper, the Daily Observer newspaper, and the Oracle newspaper was our last stop. On that note, thank you so much for following Press Review, and bye-bye.
Many thanks, Darlington Popper, for the newspaper review.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Now let's take you back to Mali, where we caught up with Professor Ali Nuhum Jallow, who is the former president of the Malian Parliament and of ECOWAS. He explains that much remains to be done to secure Mali. For him, despite the efforts of the Malian Transitional Authorities, non-state armed groups are still active in the center and north of the country. Our guest also believes that the decision by the 3 Central Sahel countries to leave ECOWAS is a mistake. Professor Ali Nuhum Jallow spoke with my colleague Sani Mounisebo in Bamako.
Pas comme je voudrais, parce qu'à mon avis, malgré tous leurs efforts, bien qu'ils aient réussi à bouter...
Not as I would like, because in my opinion, despite all their effort, although they managed to get out of Kidal the people who were preventing the Malian army from being there, we cannot say with all these efforts that we control Mali. We cannot. When a senior colonel, to name him only Amelie, when asked about the situation, mentions an embargo, but says he is not informed, so it is extremely serious. Because Buni is under embargo, and all the newspapers say so today. For a few months now, if not a year, the last attempts to leave Buni, the inhabitants of Buni, ended with at least 13 dead. The jihadists were simply waiting for someone to try to leave. They did not allow anyone to enter or to leave Buni. Today, the inner delta, which we have named the center, which includes the region of Mopti, the old one, the region of Segutu, the region of Bandiagara, the region of Douenza, which are new regions, the southern inner delta, plus the plains are in the hands of jihadists. All these areas, we should have the humility to say that they are actually under jihadist control.
Ces zones-là, nous devrions avoir l'humilité de dire qu'elles sont sous contrôle en réalité djihadiste.
Every time there is a national dialogue, there are always several recommendations that there should be dialogue with the armed groups. What's the problem in Mali with jihadist leaders? Who are the Malians?
Le 27 mars 1996.
On March 27, 1996, the flame of peace was lit in Timbuktu. Thanks to the efforts of Alpha Oumar Konaré's team, they managed to make those who had taken up arms understand, with Iyad Ashgali as their head, that they are the children of Mali, like the others. Alpha Oumar Konaré's team handed over to Amadou Toumani, a united country. So I am convinced that after Alpha Oumar Konaré's team, there has been a truly affirmed, determined will to make peace with the brothers who took up arms.
Déterminé de faire la paix avec les frères qui ont pris les armes.
Professor Alioune Ndiallo, what do you think about the alliance of Sahel states?
Je pense honnêtement, quel que soit
I honestly think whatever the mistakes, because I had the chance to lead the ECOWAS parliament for 5 years, is the spirit that dominates. Whatever mistakes ECOWAS made, we are stronger resisting at 12, 4, 3. You were at 15, 3 left, then it's you there. Decide to form a confederation, but why not a federation? Because in a federation, there will be federal rules and state rules, but federal rules should still dominate state rules. But in a confederation, it is much looser. So already for me, my intimate conviction is that they left ECOWAS to avoid the pressures of ECOWAS, forcing them to organize elections. So they want to be without a moral authority, forcing them to respect a minimum of laws and rules. I find it illusory to believe that we are stronger at 3 than at 15, and I wait to see where the alliance will go. I don't believe in it.
Professor Alioune Ndiallo speaking there. Well, let's round up with Sankle Jank, who has sports news.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Beach Soccer Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2024 qualifiers get underway on Friday. Nations are in a place that this year's CAF Beach Soccer Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2024 will officially get their qualification journey underway this weekend as the first leg of the qualifiers to the Beach Soccer Continental Showpiece officially get underway. A total of 14 nations will be engaged in the qualifiers to take place over a two-legged format to decide the 7 nations that will join the tournament host Egypt at the finals this summer. The first leg of the qualifiers took place between 19 to 21 July, with the second and final leg scheduled for 26 to 28 July. Reigning African champions Senegal will kick off the qualifiers against Guinea, who are earmarking a first CAF Beach Soccer AFCON appearance. Angola, who are also looking at qualifying for the first CAF Beach Soccer AFCON competition, take on two-time bronze medalist Morocco. Other key encounters on the cards to look out for include the West African duel between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, while Burundi and Malawi will lock horns in an East African battle for qualification. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudu for the technical support. Well, let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WDR News, and Facebook West Africa Democracy Radio English service. Coming up on our program schedule at the top of the hour will be the news in French and Vuchevu with Afar Bubakar, and at 2 p.m. it will be time for Book Talk, a production of our partner station Albarika Radio in Bauchi, Nigeria. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and